Good morning, everyone. I'm Jim Jachetta, CTO and co-founder of VidOvation. Once again, I have the pleasure of having my friend Florian Kolmer and colleague from AVIWEST as a guest. And today, I think we're going to get into more of the products, the nuts and the bolts and the features and the different functionality. Is that correct, Florian? What are you sharing with us today?
Yes, right. Thank you, Jim. So today's webinar is about more of one side of the AVIWEST workflow and range of products. It will be about the transmitters and encoders we are manufacturing and developing. So thank you for joining us today. Today is a webinar which is part of a season of webinar. I think it's our fourth one together, Jim.
Yes.
And we have been covering different subjects from remote production to bonding, and one of the previous webinar was our virtual NAB with the announcements about our new products and 5G integration as well. But today, and you are welcome, of course, to download and watch them online. But today it's focused on the AVIWEST transmitters and encoders. So we have a full range of products doing bonded cellular, but not only, for different use cases and workflows with different designs. And the webinar will be focused on this. Of course, I will explain how it is integrating in the AVIWEST workflow, but we will speak mostly about transmitters.
Very good. So one of the things Florian and I have noticed, I'm sure this is a global phenomenon, but particularly here in the U.S., VidOvation, when we're designing and deploying AVIWEST technology, there's a big trend, even before the pandemic or the current crisis, even before this, a trend to do at-home production or REMI production or whatever name you give it. You know, the concept of not having a truck or multiple trucks or trailers on site, and the concept of just home running the video back to master control. And where AVIWEST particularly shines is doing this over cellular and an unmanaged network. Other vendors do it over a fiber or a managed network with a high level of quality of service, a service level agreement. But cellular and the public internet, it is not easy to maintain genlock and lip sync. And AVIWEST really shines at this. And there was a landmark event on Sunday, PGA a charity tournament, and there were 6 or 7 cameras. One camera was, a 7th camera was in a drone, and AVIWEST technology made amazingly beautiful pictures. There were no dropouts, and it's a real testament that it is possible to do a fairly sophisticated sports production without the truck, without 50 personnel, without flying people in, putting them in hotels, renting several trucks. All those logistics were eliminated. So Florian and I would like to know, are many of you or any of you doing an at-home or REMI production workflow now? Is this something that you guys, men and women, are using right now today? Have you been using it? Is it something you just started using because of the pandemic? Is it something you're not using it now, but maybe considering it in the future? And does it, if no, it doesn't really fit your workflow, let us know.
Yeah. And you see, Jim, it's we are doing webinars about different subjects over the weeks, but REMI production is always a subject which is coming back again and again. And
yes.
And we are having more and more requests and customers moving into this new kind of workflow. It's usually not really an easy move because production companies or broadcasters are not really used to this kind of remote production. And at the beginning, some years ago, it was only considered for some college sport or minor event. And now, as you mentioned, with the PGA event, it's becoming very popular for major events as well, and using bonded cellular.
Right, right. So you can see here, 14% have been using it for a while. 14% have just started, and a big chunk no, but plan to use it in the future. So that's good to hear. So all the tech, even though today's presentation is not about at-home production specifically, keep that in the back of your mind that this technology is very robust, and customers of ours have tried other cellular solutions, and AVIWEST is the only one that maintains frame accurate gen lock for multi cameras, as well as lip sync. Cellular is really meant for a single camera going out shooting, as I like to say, that's my go-to thing, is a reporter going out to shoot a news story on the courthouse steps with a single camera. AVIWEST has taken this technology to another level where we can do multiple cameras and maintain genlock. So we'll let Florian take over and tell us more about this technology.
Yeah, and just to finish with that, the main difference with the AVIWEST products for REMI production is the quality of the encoding as well. So in all our products now you got, but I will explain more later, you got an HEVC, hardware HEVC 42210 bits encoder. So there is no compromise on the video quality as well, especially for sports.
Great.
But today it's more about the encoders and transmitters we are manufacturing. But as REMI is a popular subject, I will always try to explain how those products can be used in a remote production environment. So let's start. The AVIWEST encoders have been historically being used from the field to the station. That's how you are usually using bonded cellular in the past. But thanks to the technology we have been developing, it can also be used for distribution. As you can see on this diagram, all the AVIWEST products and transport is using a protocol called SST. It means SafeStreams Transport. That's a proprietary IP protocol we have been designing for more than 10 years now, which is much more robust over public networks than using standard RTMP, MPEG-TS, SRT, and so on. It can cope with much less reliable networks, including cellular or poor public Wi-Fi, and so on. And this technology is the one handling the bonding, but not only, it's also doing two-dimensional error forward error correction, AIQ. This genlock over IP capability you have been mentioning, Jim, for remote production and having full sync between multiple cameras. And now, as you can see here, it can also be used for content distribution. And we have been doing more and more projects on that. Instead of distributing over satellite and having a satellite uplink between stations or dedicated fiber, to move that part to the public internet as well using our robust SST technology. But today, as it's well shown here, the webinar is focused on the contribution part, as we will be talking more about the field units and the field encoders here. So we are going to showcase all range of AVIWEST encoders, could be hardware-based, camera-mounted mobile solution, rack-mount-based, and software-based for smartphones as well, between the field and the first step, the first station, the main control room. So let's move forward. Up. So the AVIWEST encoders and field units are being used for a wide range of applications. So it can be used for a breaking news report, as you can see on the picture on the top left. It can use for sport like cycling, as you can see here. It can be used inside venues or rooms or places, like you can see on the bottom left. And it can also be used, that's a bit different, for public safety organization. Like here you can see on this picture, it's firefighters using our technology with drones. So basically they are flying over forest or fires or houses to get a live content back at a remote command center to be able to deploy the right team and crew in the field.
I should mention, Florian, we recently did, with the outbreak of the current crisis, we're working with several law enforcement organizations, giving them the ability to broadcast emergency announcements, the governor, et cetera, using AVIWEST technology to do this over cellular and over the public internet.
Right. So what are usually your needs, especially when moving to this kind of technology? First, of course, you are looking for something really mobile you can use everywhere and don't have any trouble anymore to install the satellite uplink or find out how to get a fiber connectivity on location. So that technology will help you to work from everywhere without setting anything in advance. It's also a technology which is helping you a lot to save on costs. So saving on cost doesn't only mean reducing your expenses, but it's also allowing you to produce more content, of course. Then you need some reliable transmission technology, and in all our products, that's done thanks to our SST protocol. Having the best video quality available, and the HEVC encoder, which is in all our hardware products, is designed for that, and it's probably going to provide you a better video quality than the existing rack mount encoders you may have at the station. It's also giving you a full mobility, autonomy, and everything can be also managed remotely. So in all our products, it's very easy to use, and not only is it easy to use, it can be used remotely. So you can just give the units to a freelance cameraman, one of your crew without any training, and not only do the production remotely, you can manage the field units remotely as well. So here on this picture, you can, for example, see it's one of the TV shows here. During the lockdown, they have been producing the show at home. So they got a small TV set at home. It's one of the famous TV shows here, and it's done at the presenter's apartment here in Paris. And on the front end, you can see the small PRO3 unit sending the feed to the station.
I should mention, Florian, speaking about working at home, VidOvation, as you know, is working with some production companies that are staying active. They consider some of their productions essential. They're covering some news stories, etc. But a common thing right now is the AVIWEST take the Pro 380 or the AIR product. It has the HEVC encoder, so streaming or transmitting video is its primary function. But what this production company is actually doing is just using the bonded hotspot function, the bonded VPN function to run Zoom phone calls through. So
That's we will talk about later in the
yeah,
presentation.
yeah. So yeah, okay. So we could talk about that more about
Yeah.
that application.
So let's move to the product presentation. As you may already know, we have a full range of products, and we don't have a single bonded cellular solution. We have multiple products to match your requirements and your workflow. So here's the first two series of products are the two mobile encoders to use with mobile cameras. So the first one is the PRO3 series. It's a small device which is designed to be mounted on your on-board cameras. So it can be like sandwiched between your camera and battery, and the power is getting through, and you just have to connect the SDI out of your camera. And I will show you a bit more on that. And the second one is the AIR Series. It's a smaller product to use with smaller camcorders. It has an internal battery. It can be attached on your belt, for example. Both units share the same encoding platform and the same kind of features, so they can be used in the field for news, for example, news reports. They can be used for remote and at-home production. They can be used for online streaming, and they can also be used to provide IP connectivity, as you have been mentioning, Jim. And I will show you more in the next slides. So in terms of hardware, how does it look like? You can see here the Pro series can be either mounted on a camera. That's a typical setup for news. And it can also be carried in a small backpack. So that's basically a small backpack with an Anton-Boer plate inside, and you can just clip the unit with the battery and get your SDI cable to the camera.
We can also do VLOC as well. I mean, Anton Bauer is the most popular here in the U.S., but we do have VLOC units as well.
Yeah, that's
Right.
why here in my slide it's VLOC, but I'm mentioning Anton-Boer.
Yeah, it depends. Yeah, if you got Sony cameras, you're probably going to be doing VLOC. If you're doing Panasonic, it's going to be Anton Bauer. But we cover both.
Yeah, and so the other series, the AIR product, can be carried in a small shoulder bag across with your camcorder. It can be attached to your camera as well. And something we are not showing here, but we can provide a belt clip as well, so you can attach it on your belt, especially if you're on the move.
So let me interject, Florian. So I think this is a good picture. The workflow of the PGA. So the 6 handheld cameras all use the Pro mounted to the camera, so that the cameramen were on the golf course following the players. Then there were several commentators on the course just with audio. You know, they weren't filming, so they were in the frame with the players, and they had the small little shoulder pouch with the AIR, bringing their microphone audio into the AIR, bringing that back to master control. So the production actually used a combination of both technologies.
Yes, that's a good point to mention, Jim. In fact, you can use a combination of all our encoders with the same production environment and the same receiver at the other end. They are all using and sharing the same SST protocol and hardware HEVC encoder. So let's look a bit closer. On both units, you have a very friendly UI, which can be either locally in the field on the unit screen itself. So for example, on the Pro3 unit, you can see on this slide, you have a small touch screen. You can access all the features directly from the screen. On the AIR series, it's the exact same UI, but it's a smaller screen, which is non-touch, and you have like a press button and volume button. And then you can also access user interface through a web user interface using any tablet or laptop locally or remotely from the station as well. So what are the main features for those products? Of course, you might guess they can do live transmission, but not only. You can also do record, so you have a local SD card in the unit and you can record video. You can forward, of course, your material to the station. Not only the recorded videos, but you can forward any kind of files. So on both units, you got a USB port, you can plug any external hard drive and push all kind of content to the station as well. You can do live and simultaneous record. That's not unique as a feature, but that's unique in the way it's being done in those products, because in both the AIR and Pro3 units, you have 2 separate hardware-based video encoders, HEVC, so you can get live in a variable bitrate quality depending on your cellular networks, but you can record at the same time in constant bitrate high quality on the SD card. And Jim has usually a good example of this feature being used usually by the live PD show on A&E. If you have been watching the live PD show, the police show on A&E, what they are doing, they are following police departments in 7 different states simultaneously, and they are doing it live. But in some location, if they are chasing car in the countryside and the cellular connection is not that nice, they will have a live feed at a lower bitrate depending on cellular conditions, but they will record in high quality at the same time. And as soon as they are switching to another state, they are just forwarding the recorded material for rerun and post-production.
Of course, you can always record live in camera, but then you have to wait till the show is over to get that content out. What many of our competitors do, they do record, but they're recording the live transmission, the variable bit rate. And when do you need the recording the most? So in the example Florian mentioned of live PD, the recording was needed when the cellular was the bit rate was rather low, then there would be no point in using the recording because the recording would be in low bit rate. So by having two encoders, the live one is going up and down in bit rate, and the recording is always at 5 megs, 6 megs, 10 megs, whatever you choose as the quality.
Right. So next feature is near live functionality. So some of our customers, they don't necessarily to produce a live show, but they want to be able to get the content at the station as soon as possible. So on both units, you can do record and simultaneous forward. So it will start forwarding your files while it's still being recorded. Then you have some new features. The first one is called the data hotspot. So it's providing your third-party gears in the field an high-speed internet connection over bonded cellular. So it's called the internet hotspot. But it's also doing a VPN connection to the receiver at your station. Two main use cases for that. The first one means in the field, you will be able to access secured local resources at the station, typically like a VPN connection. But also from the station, you will be able to remotely control third-party equipment like PTZ cameras, IP-based video switches, and so on. How is it working? On both the PRO3 and AIR products, you do have a Wi-Fi hotspot. You also have a landline Ethernet port acting as a gateway, so you can plug all kind of IP-based equipment, and it's doing an IP bridge with a stream-up receiver at the station, so all the equipment in the field will be on the same LAN, on the same subnet as the station. So then it's quite agnostic, and you can use it for any kind of IP-based data and traffic and workflow.
And as I mentioned earlier, we have one production company running Zoom group phone calls through this. So Hollywood and television now is so hungry for content because all television, all movie productions are closed, that they actually ship the equipment to Hollywood actors and participants' houses. The AVIWEST technology is so easy to power up. They just turn the unit on. They actually send a computer and some cell phones that are already connected to the hotspot, and they just bring up the Zoom app and they do Zoom phone calls. Believe it or not, there's a lot of people in Hollywood that live in Calabasas and in the hills that have really bad internet connections, believe it or not. I guess you can be a multimillionaire and still have a crappy internet connection. Maybe not in France, Florian, but this is the US. So the 380 has been used for this application and is working very well.
Yeah, right. Then new thing we have been talking already about last week during our virtual NAB webinar is 5G connectivity. So we are integrating 5G modems into both products. That's already working, and we are going to ship the first units very soon. And those 5G modules are supporting all 5G frequency bands being deployed in the US, but worldwide as well in Europe and Asia. And they are going to be integrated in both products. We have been working on 5G for a long time. We are part of 5G research labs and programs as well. We start testing the very first engineering samples of 5G modems from multiple manufacturers, and now we are in the final stage and we are going to ship that soon. It's already being used by some of our customers in Asia and Europe for now. So, and we will speak maybe later a bit more about that. It's going not only to bring you a higher bandwidth and lower latency, but it has also a full new range of features like private networks, network slicing for guaranteed bandwidth, and so on. But that was part of another webinar. Then we have been recently adding a new feature for a video return feed. So now in both the PRO3 and AIR products, you have an HDMI output and you can get a return program feed from the station. What can it be used for? It can be used for remote teleprompting. You want to send a teleprompt feed from the station to the encore, for example. It can be used for remote monitoring. So if you want to be able to watch a program in the field, but not only, if you are doing a multi-camera production, you can also send a multi-view back to the field for monitoring. It can also, and we have more and more customers doing that, it can be used for remote production to be able to return your sport program back to the stadium and broadcast it on a big screen, on a large screen, for example. So that's a video return feed. Basically, you are re-encoding your program at the station and send it over the same SST protocol over bonded cellular, for example, back to the same unit that's working simultaneously. So it's a full duplex video solution. And then you can just get the HDMI output to any kind of monitor.
Oh, let me add one note that I thought of this question after our last webinar. You know, we talked about return video, that you'll get into the mechanics of how to do it from the studio side. But if many of our customers have already bought or they're renting an AIR or purchased an AIR and a PRO3, the AIR now is what, about 2 years old? The Pro about a year, the PRO3 that is about a year. But AVIWEST had the foresight to put not only SDI and HDMI outputs on these newer products more than a year ago, 2 years ago. They put, I'm sorry, SDI and HDMI inputs, they also put outputs in anticipation of this video return feature coming. So there's no upgrade that you have to do, correct, on the field side, on the encoder side, right?
Yeah, right, and you're right on that, Jim. In fact, those products are having a longer lifetime than some other solutions, and the hardware for the video return capability, for example, was ready from scratch as well, and we have just been developing the software part for this. So all the existing units can already do video return. It's just a software update.
Right.
Another new feature on both products is a mission-centric feature. We got more and more customers integrating the AVIWEST technology and workflow into the NRCS system in the newsroom. And we have been integrating with solutions like Bellet, EVS, Newsbridge, and so on, and AVID as well, so that now you can get a list of bonded cellular equipment into your EVS or AVID system. Just create a new mission, pick the field encoder you want to assign it to, and then when your user in the field will switch on the device, they will see a list of missions they need to handle, and all the live content and recorded materials they are going to produce and send back to the station will be automatically ingested along with the metadata into your newsroom system. So that's a mission-centric workflow.
You mentioned, was it NRCS, Florian? What does that stand for those that don't know?
The newsroom central system. Yeah.
Newsroom central systems, that's the system that manages the whole workflow, the whole production.
Yes, right. And we are going to showcase this more later. I have a slide on this.
Okay.
And then we got an auto live feature that's to have a 0 button operation. You just plug the battery and you are live. I will show you more later on that.
That feature has been very helpful, sending the units to untrained actors in their home to do the Zoom. All they have to do is plug it in, boom, the hotspot comes up, boom, the video goes. So that that little switch, right? Well, you're going to show it, but that's really helpful. The second power is applied. There might be some cases where you don't want to go live when you turn on power because you'll use cellular data unintentionally. But for low tech operators, it's great.
I have a dedicated slide on that a bit later, Jim.
Okay.
But just to start with the video encoding part. So on the PRO3 and AIR units, you got H.264 and HEVC encoders. So the PRO3 is a higher range product. You can do both H.264 and HEVC. On the AIR product, we have two series. We have the AIR3 series doing HEVC only, and the AIR2 series doing H.264 only. Why are we still doing H.264? Depending on our customers, we have some customers that are only going to stream to CDN supporting only H.264, and they have enough bandwidth, so they don't really need to save on HEVC with that. And in their workflow, it will require to transcode anyway from HEVC to H.264. So that's why we are still offering H.264 encoders as well.
Well, and then also the AIR2 is a very cost-effective entry point. Obviously, there's a big cost savings.
Yeah.
Your H.264 codec was very good to begin with, so many of our customers are still using H.264 and they're going head-to-head with other HEVC, but it's still a viable solution, I guess, is my point, and a lower cost entry point into the AVIWEST ecosystem.
Yeah. So then they are supporting all standard resolutions, so we can go up to 1080p 60, supporting all resolutions here with both products, and you will see later we have another solution for 4K UHD as well if you are doing 4K UHD. Both can encode in constant bitrate and variable bitrate. Why constant bitrate? Some of our users, they still need to use sometimes this encoder on a dedicated network with a dedicated bandwidth, and on the other end, they have decoders supporting only CBR mode, for example. So that's why we are still doing CBR. And they can encode from the lowest 200 kilobit per second up to 20 megabit per second. A key advantage here with the HEVC, the hardware HEVC encoder we have in those units, is that it can encode a very good quality video at low bit rates and high bit rates as well. Of course, not the same, but the encoder here can start doing 1080i at 300 kilobit per second. So for most of our users doing news, they are now doing, for example, 1 megabit per second HEVC news, depending on the quality they are expecting, but this will allow you to save quite a lot on data cost as well. And then
the picture still looks pretty good. You know, if it's just a talking head, there's not a lot of motion. The quality still looks good.
Yeah, and it's easy to use. You can set up your own profiles, so you are not depending on AVIWEST predefined profiles on that. So if you are doing news, sports, whatsoever, you can create a news profile, sport profile, and then your user in the field just need to pick the one they are doing or using.
The PGA ran the Pro 380s and the AIR 320s at 6 megabits per second. I'm sorry, 5 megabits per second, and the quality was amazing. It was equivalent to 10 megabits or 12 megabits of H.264.
Oh, yeah, one other point with this new encoding platform is the latency. So we have been reducing the latency in both the SST IP protocol and in our HEVC encoding and decoding platform. So now we can go down to 500 millisecond end-to-end latency. Then you have SDI, of course, input and HDMI input. So you don't need to choose between one or the other in the unit. You got both available all the time. In terms of audio as well, we have been improving that. With this new platform, we can encode 4 audio channels, AAC encoding. You can define your audio bitrate as well. And one unique feature as well is that you can also use external analog audio channels. So of course, we can encode audio in the SDI and HDMI signal, but if you got analog audios as well, we got 2 mini XLR connectors in those units, both the AIR and Pro series. So you can also get your external analog inputs here.
That's exactly what we did with the PGA. So the commentator on the course, he had the AIR 320 on his shoulder. Right now, the mini XLR analog inputs is only line level. Samuel Fleischacker, your product manager, confirmed that I think it's on the roadmap to do microphone level. So the PGA probably had to use a microphone to line level amplifier in the little backpack to get the microphone up to line level. And then we just ran the video portion of the AIR 320 on the test pattern. So the two channels of analog audio were able to come into the field so that the talent and the commentator microphones were carried, and all imperfect lip sync. You know, so we had camera shooting with the PRO 380 with open microphones, had the talent interviewing the golfer with a microphone. If there was a genlock or a lip sync problem, you would have heard echo in all those open mics, making the audio engineer's job virtually impossible. AVIWEST makes that all look so easy and simplifies the production because everything, all the audio, everything was all in sync.
Yeah, that's part of this slide. That's why I just.
I keep doing that, Florian.
Yeah, I know.
Sorry.
That's the transmission part. So as I mentioned earlier, all our products are using this SST technology, SafeStreams Transport. And what is this IP protocol doing? Of course, it's doing bonding, so we can bond multiple cellular networks together. But of course, we can bond also heterogeneous networks. So we can bond cellular with landline, cellular with Wi-Fi, with satellite. Whatever IP networks is available can be used here. And that's definitely what we wanted to do from the beginning, is to be easy to use for the customer. And it's completely agnostic, and it's making use of any kind of network from everywhere. But the SST technology is not only about that. It's also doing forwarder transmission, packet retransmission, and forwarder correction. That's a two-dimensional FEC feature which is built in the technology as well. It's also doing genlock over IP, as you mentioned, Jim, and that is frame accurate, which means if you are the audio getting through one of the encoder and the video through another one, your feed will be perfectly genlocked on the receiving end without having to physically wire and genlock your encoders in the field. So it's using some PTP clocking mechanism, and the streamer receiver in the station is sending clocking information to all the encoders in the field. So that's a genlock feature here. Then we got also a new feature allowing you to define priorities on your IP networks. So let's say you are in some location, you have a dirty landline internet access you can't rely only on, but you want still to use it because it's free. You can bond cellular with landline and define the higher priority on the landline connection and lower on cellular. Then the way it's designed is that you will define the target video bitrate you want to achieve, like 5 megabits per second, and it will use all the connections simultaneously bonded together. And as soon as it's reaching 5 megabits per second, it will use the cellular networks less. So that's the way it's designed. It will not switch from one to the other to avoid any video freeze and packet losses, but it will try to prioritize your cheaper connections against the more expensive ones. So that's data balancing over with priorities. So that's the transmission technology here. Everything is automatically managed by the SST protocol, and the SST protocol is also the network part giving encoding instruction to the HEVC encoder in the unit. This technology, we are very proud. We won 2 Emmy Awards in a row. We were at the ceremony at NAB last year, but we missed this one, unfortunately. But we have been awarded twice in a row for this technology, which is very robust and very powerful. All our customers were sending us feedbacks that it was robust, that the genlock was really accurate, and all those priority features, a two-dimension forwarder correction, were more powerful and giving them a more robust transmission path for their production. So let's move a bit more. So to use those this SST protocol and use all the IP connections, we have different modules embedded in those units. So as you can see here, we got 3G, 4G embedded modems and antennas in both units. So in the PRO3 series, we can have 4 modems or 8 modems. Those are worldwide modems. They are supporting all frequency bands, 3G, 4G, and now 5G as well, deployed worldwide. And not only is it useful when you are traveling, but it's also useful in the US, as Verizon, AT&T, and the others, they have been awarded more frequency bands for 4G LTE, which are called extended bands. Most of the modems, smartphones, USB modems, and other branded cellular solutions, they are not supporting those frequency bands. We do support them here, which means you will have more coverage, of course, but you will have probably more bandwidth, especially in venues in which you will be the only one to use those frequency bands, basically. And then on the AIR product, you can have either no modems at all, that's for our entry range solution, or if you want to use Wi-Fi or landline only. And we have models with 2 built-in modems. In both products, you have high efficiency antennas. We have been designing, they are patented, and those antennas are different between the AIR and PRO series to be able to avoid any coupling effect between antennas together and to take into account the whole structure of the unit in terms of RF signaling as well. And those antennas are making a big difference. Of course, if you are alone outside, you won't notice it because it will work as any cellular solution. But if you are in a full stadium with a lot of smartphone users, you will get more bandwidth from the towers thanks to those antennas. It's also making a big difference if you are far from the towers, inside a building or in a remote place in a lake, for example. Then you will be able to get more bandwidth, or at least bandwidth, compared to some other antennas and solutions. Then with the AIR product, you can also add some external USB modems to have 4 cellular connections on the AIR 220 and AIR 320, for example. So that's about the modules and especially the new 5G modules we are embedding. So for now, if you're familiar with the AVIWEST products on the PRO3, I mentioned before, you can have 4 modems or 8 modems. When you will update your units or when you will order a new 5G unit called PRO3 5G, you will have 6 modems inside. That's because of the size of modems and technological choice we have been making. So you will have 6 modems in the PRO3 unit, and you will still have the same 2 number of modems in the AIR series. For our existing customers, it's an easy update. We have an upgrade path, so you can upgrade your existing LTE unit into a 5G solution. And of course, I should mention, because sometimes I have this question, those modems are still supporting 3G and 4G networks. So, but that's
well,
good.
Well, go. I'm sorry, Florian.
Some solutions supporting 5G only. That's why.
I should mention too that not all modems are equal. That you mentioned the superior antennas, the brand and the choice of modems you guys pick for your 3G and 4G today and the coming 5G. Not all modems are created equal. You pick modems that cover all or most of the available cellular frequency bands. And when you look in the GUI interface of the AVIWEST system running, I was monitoring the PGA event on Sunday. I could even see 2 Verizon, to just take Verizon for example, 2 modems were connected. One modem was connected to Verizon band number 3, and another one was connected to Verizon band 33, let's say. I may have the bands incorrect. But the units, the system is smart enough to grab different bands even from the same carrier, which helps with redundancy. Maybe you can speak to that a little bit more, Florian. Maybe I'm not doing that justice. That there really is a difference in the quality of modems you guys use. Maybe speak to that.
No, right, and the example with Verizon might be band 13 and 66, for example, and it's giving you an advantage because if you are connecting on the same carrier but on two different frequency bands, you are catching more bandwidth, basically. So yes, there is a strategy in the SST technology to be able to combine the right frequency bands depending on the bandwidth and so on. Yeah. And this is dynamic because, of course, in one location, you will have better signal on this band, and on another location, not, because it can be crowded and so on.
And you can see that if you watch the interface, if they get into a dead spot, the modem will actually switch bands because one band disappeared and another band becomes available, or the signal's better on another band, or the throughput is better on another band.
Right. Right. That's a good introduction for that. We are not always speaking much about this, but if you are using bonded cellular and you are traveling, then it can be difficult to get SIM cards and to change SIM cards from a country to another. And now we are providing worldwide SIM cards with a roaming solution. Roaming can always be scary because of cost, but we have been tailoring some specific offers to be able to have a maximum compatibility worldwide with the maximum local carriers at the lowest possible cost. So for now, we are providing three different packages, I would say. We are providing a package for the US with you, Jim, especially, and we are providing a Europe packages in the EU, and we are also providing a worldwide package.
In the past, that was a little bit of a challenge. Like, for example, a European news org would come to the US. They would have to rent a unit from VidOvation that had US modems. I'm talking many years ago. So their European unit was not optimized or would not work in the US. Now, the last few years, now that you've standardized on global modems, all you need is the right SIMs and the unit will work in any country, correct?
Right, and it's fully automatic now in the PRO3 and AIR units. It wasn't the case with the previous generation of our products. It's fully automatic, so you don't need to configure any APN or whatsoever with the SIM card. You just insert the SIM and the configuration is automatic. Then in those packages, especially in the EU and especially worldwide, we are now also providing wide SIMs, which are multi-carriers. So you can let it automatic, and it will automatically choose a combination of local carriers to connect to, or you can force this manually as well.
That's actually a common question. I mean, typically we deploy a Pro 180, the older product, or a Pro 380, the new product. It has 8 modems. We typically do 2 Verizon, 2 AT&T, 2 T-Mobile, 2 Sprint. But if someone is going to a ballpark where Verizon is the sponsor and they have a lot of Verizon access points or repeaters, you might want more than 2 modems of Verizon. And the AVIWEST unit can make that decision that Verizon is more prevalent, so let's have more than two modems be Verizon. Is that correct?
Yes, right. That's a way you can manage that, and it can be non-automatic as well by the SST protocol.
You can force it, yeah.
It's also the case if you have a special agreement and special plan with the carrier. So that's our dedicated rental service. We have a dedicated service here and team to manage all your rental requests and all your service requests. So don't hesitate to get in touch with them. They can give you more information about that. They can also introduce you with our local partner like VidOvation in the US, but we have partners in more than 100 countries across the globe. So if you are traveling in the most remote country, don't worry, we got you covered there as well. So let's have a look on the other side of the product, because basically it's on the other end. On the PRO3, as I mentioned before, you have a touchscreen interface. You can monitor your transmission. You can monitor your audio as well. It's all automatically detecting now your video source, so you don't have to manually select it. You can let it automatic, and it will automatically check between SDI and HDMI. If you are unfortunately unplugging your camera, don't worry, just replug and the live video will continue without any interruption or manual operation. So that's automatic things we have been adding recently. And as you tried to spoil me at the beginning,
Sorry.
we have been, no, it's fine. We have been adding some fully automatic workflow. It means you always love when it's a one-button operation. Now what we have been doing here, it can be a one-button operation, that's on the right, but it can be a zero-button operation as well. So now in the unit, in the Pro series, in the AIR as well, you can set it up in advance to be fully automatic, and when you will plug power, battery or external power, it will automatically boot the unit, connect to the server, and start a live transmission, fully automatic. So that's a zero button operation, or as you can see on the right, it can be a one button operation, so it will automatically start a live transmission when you boot the unit.
Well, this is particularly helpful. I'm sorry, Florian, but it's particularly helpful, like with a show like Live PD. A common problem that used to happen was when a camera operator changed battery, they had to go in and hit the unit. They'd have to either turn the unit on and then hit the live button. This way, they change battery. You know, it's almost like a war zone. They're chasing with the police after a bad guy. They quickly change battery. They don't have time to make sure the unit's on and go live. With this feature, it's idiot-proof, really.
Yeah, you change the battery and it's automatically restarting. So what it is doing, as soon as you plug the battery, the unit is booting, then it's detecting the cellular networks and connecting to the cellular carriers. Then it's connecting to the receiver at the station. If there is no video source, it's waiting for you to plug your video source, so it won't fail if you plug the battery before the video source, for example. And as soon as there will be a source, it will start the live transmission.
That's perfect.
Yeah. So that's the way it has been designed. That's a new feature we have been introducing recently. And that's full automatic. So
yeah,
next
and you should know, you don't have a picture of it, but there is a little switch hidden, like you go in there with little screwdriver. If for some reason you want that feature turned off, correct? There's like a little hidden little switch.
Yes. Yes. So you can choose to activate this feature or not. Yeah. So next thing is network priority. I've been mentioning that a bit in the introduction, but that's a unique feature as well. We start having more and more customers using heterogeneous networks, satellite with cellular, for example, or cellular with landline, or some, like for example, in the US, having different data costs. If you are using Verizon, it's usually more expensive than using T-Mobile, for example. So now in both products, you can define for each of your IP connection, you can define the priority. So basically it will be low priority or high priority. That's like this. You can see in the interface for each of the landline connection, Wi-Fi, modems, you can choose which one are low priority and which one are high priority. And as I mentioned earlier, it's quite intelligent. It's not going to turn off your low priority networks, because if you are doing so and your single high priority landline internet is disconnecting, the time to recover on cellular, you will have some video freezes. So the way it's designed, it's using all connections together, but as soon as it's reaching your target bitrate, it's going to decrease the usage of your low priority networks. So that's the way.
You don't. A common question a customer might have: well, why don't I turn the cellular modems off to save 100% on the data? That's a bad idea, because an operator would have to be there ready to turn them on if there's a dropout, in this example, on the cellular. But no one can respond instantaneously to turn the modems on. They'll take 30 seconds to connect. So you want them on low priority, so there's a little bit of a trickle, a little bit of data, so the connection stays open, correct? The connection is still there, waiting on it. It's waiting on warm or hot standby, correct?
That's fully correct, except the full answer is that we can do both. So if you want, you can also turn off the modems. You can see you have a column with a priority, low and high.
Yes.
And on the right, you can turn off and on modems as well. The reason why it will be useful if you are sure about what you are doing, like you already have 2 landline connections, or you are
Right.
already using some landline, and especially if you don't want to use the 8 modems, but only 4, because in your particular workflow it's enough, you can do that. The reason you would do that, it's not exactly to save on cost, it's to save on battery as well.
Ah, okay. So the 8 modems running, if you don't need all 8 of them, they're sucking down power. That's a point I didn't think of. But like you said, you want to use some intelligence. If you only had the one satellite connection, it wouldn't. From a transmission reliability standpoint, you want to have at least 2 or 3 or 4 connections, not just a single one to rely on. So, but that's a good point. I didn't think of that about power.
Right. So next one is the video return feed. So that's a new feature we have been implementing a few months ago, and now it's available and it's quite advanced. It's not having just a low quality return feed on the unit screen. It's more advanced than that. That's why we have a dedicated slide, and I need to explain you more. So the way it's working, and it's working during the live as well, of course, it's simultaneous. So here you can see we are doing a multi-camera production for elections here on 3 different places, locations. We are sending live feeds to the control room, and now we want to send a return program back to the units. With this feature here, it's not only a single program, you can return multiple different programs to different field units. So it can be one-to-one, like you can see in green, or it can be one-to-many, as you can see in blue. The way it's working, it's being sent through the same SST protocol and tunnel from the same streamer receiver. And if you want to ingest an SDI program feed, you will just need one of our rack mount encoder called the Rack-200 and plug your SDI program in. Then it will be local with your streamer at the station, and your streamer will distribute your program feed. So in the StreamHub interface, you will be able to choose which return video feed you have available and to which field unit you want to send those programs. And then in the field, it's the video return is a high quality feed. You can get it out from the HDMI output, so it can be used on a small monitor for monitoring, but it can also be used on a large screen for broadcasting, for example, if it's in the stadium or in a venue.
Well, I think I mentioned this on the last webinar, and you mentioned also, Florian, you know, the teleprompter. So in your example here, site 3, maybe that's a commentator. So the green feed is the teleprompter. So
Yes.
so he's reading his script. Him or her is reading their script. Then the blue feed could be the program feed. There could be a third feed. So one of the caveats of doing at-home production is if you're at a sporting venue, you don't have an instant replay feed to feed the screens in the venue. If you're doing instant replay back at master control, you'll need to send replay feeds back to the stadium. And you mentioned you don't want a low quality, grainy looking video, especially if it's going to go on a big screen. You want full resolution, full motion video, and that could be a third feed. So you could have teleprompter, program video, and the instant replay feed for the big screen at the venue, right?
So that's a perfect introduction to 2 other points for that return video feed. The first one, it's an HD quality feed, high quality, for the reason you have been mentioning, but also if you want to return a multi-viewer because it's a multi-location show and your crew in each location want to be able to monitor all the others, so you can send a multi-view back into the field as well. And it's also a low latency return video. So it's an end-to-end sub-second return video feed, which is key for a teleprompter, for example.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's a video return. HDMI output, right. So next feature, we are not talking that much about, but it's a bit more advanced, and I think it's the only cellular product you can do that in, is you can select the cellular bands manually. So in all our products, the PRO, the AIR, you can also get into an advanced cellular configuration. And for each of the modems, you can choose which cellular bands you want to activate or deactivate. Why would you do so? First, it can let you reach some other cell towers which are further from the stadium and venue, for example. That's to touch unloaded cell instead of using an overloaded cell and get higher bandwidth. It can be also useful if you are using this technology in an helicopter, for example. You are flying fast and you want to use more lower frequency bands, because if you are using higher frequency bands, it means you will have a lot of handovers between the cell towers, and it
Right.
will lost packets doing so. So you can force to be using only lower frequency bands. Same thing for indoor transmission. And the first time we launched this cellular band selection was quite a long time ago, Jim. If you remember, it was like
Yes.
5 years ago, I guess, if I remember well, for a show in which the journalist was constantly moving by foot from the street inside building, back in the street inside buildings. So it was always switching from higher frequency bands in the street to lower frequency bands getting through the walls in the buildings. And that wasn't working very well. So with these features, they were able to only activate the lower frequency bands. And you can see here in the UI, you can stick to standard, which we are usually recommending, because only selecting your own frequency bands manually is risky. If you are just selecting frequency bands Verizon didn't deploy in the location you are going to, it won't manage, it won't work at all. The last reason for that is with some carriers, you might have some specific contract with dedicated quality of service on particular frequency bands. And in that way, let's think you have a contract like this with Verizon, for example. You might want to force some of the modems to that particular band. Not all of them, but some of them.
Well, I
So
should add too, Florian, in most cases, this happens automatically, that this is more of an advanced function to override that if you have a unique workflow. You kind of touched on it. The higher frequency bands are usually shorter range but higher bit rate. So they don't propagate as far. They don't go through walls as well. They don't work as well with a high moving vehicle or a fast moving helicopter. But it should operate dynamically. But if you want to, kind of take some of the decision making process away from the automatic algorithm, you should only do this if you're an advanced user, I guess is the point, right?
right, this is one of the most advanced expert feature in our product, so it's only for very specific use cases. And you need to really understand the cellular carriers networks and coverage as well. So next feature is the data hotspot. So it's becoming more and more common to use bonded cellular solutions to get an internet access in the field. So of course we are offering that, but we are really going a step further in terms of features. So this data hotspot, that's why it's not named an internet hotspot, because it's not only an internet hotspot. It's making a full IP bridge between the field and the station, like if you were on a VPN, but using the bonded cellular connections and the SST technology. So in the field, you will be able to connect multiple devices over Wi-Fi or landline. And then on the stream up side, it will connect to your secured local network at the station. And it can be used for, of course, an high-speed mobile internet access, but also it can be used for any IP workflows like PTZ camera, IP video switches, and so on.
This slide is almost exactly the production application I mentioned at the beginning. If you added a second cell phone, they send a Mac, I think they send a Mac computer with Zoom on it. They either hook the Mac via Wi-Fi or a hardwired internet connection, and then the two cell phones are on Wi-Fi, and then they're at a celebrity's mansion that has poor internet, and this is how they run the Zoom phone call. So they have a Zoom phone call going on the Mac with the built-in camera on the Mac, and then they'll have two cell phones for a second and third camera, and they're doing these simple reality shows where you know, Jerry O'Connell is getting a haircut from his wife. So there's all these Zoom reality shows now, as if we don't have enough Zoom, Florian, in our daily life right now. We're working with Zoom, we're talking to our friends with Zoom. Now we need to watch shows about other people using Zoom. But that's where we are, and this is a textbook. This is the exact workflow that they're using that you're showing here.
Yeah, and this feature is also the next step for at-home production, which means you are physically at home, but using this IP bridge capability, it's like if your camera has switches and equipment and lights and everything you can have at home or remote, I mean, will be at home at the station. So
yeah, your IP-based comms can come through this data hotspot or VPN as an example. That's one example.
Using PTZ or robotic cameras at the station locally in your studio, and that allows you to do exactly the same, but with those cameras remote. So next, I've been mentioning during the introduction a little bit this mission-centric workflow with AV, delete, and EVS. So the idea is to speed up the production and the post-production, doing everything with automatization, and streamline the workflow. At AVIWEST, in fact, in all our products, you have some open API, so it can easily be integrated in third-party solutions. The idea is to enjoy the powerful AVIWEST protocol and technologies without adding extra layers, so it can be fully transparent into your existing newsroom environment, and both for live and file operations. So that's what you can see here in this diagram. If you are not totally familiar with the Manager and Streamer products, you are really welcome to watch our previous webinars online. The Streamer receiver quickly is a server at your station which can receive, decode, and distribute your live and recorded content. The Manager, it's over-the-top global management solution if you have a multi-studio operation, for example. Then with this manager, it can be connected to your newsroom system, and it will provide a list of encoders to your newsroom system. And then you can pick one of the encoder, assign a new mission, put metadata, journalist information, and so on. And when the unit will be switched on in the field, turned on in the field, they will see a list of missions on the screen. They can pick one mission, and all the live and recorded content they will produce will be sent to the streamer and ingested into your asset management system along with the metadata. So it's a fully automated solution, and it's easy to integrate in the newsroom system, and it's compatible with any kind of a newsroom solution you might be using. So we have been speaking for now about mobile encoders with the PRO3 and AIR series. We have been launching at NAB, that was a virtual NAB we did last week, Jim, a new range of products based on the same hardware platform, the same hardware HEVC encoders, the same kind of modems and so on, which is called the Rack series. So it's a small half-1RU rack. It's designed to be used more for remote at-home production. It can be used in a vehicle. It can be used in a stadium or venue. So it's less mobile, but it's useful if you have a rack of equipment and if you are in a fixed venue. That's for contribution. Remember my first slide. It can also be used for distribution. So the other use case would be to have this rack mount encoder into your studio to distribute your content. So that's content sharing here. So let's see what's inside. So in the Rack series, we have two different models. We have the entry branch cost-effective H.264 solution, Rack 200, and we have the more advanced H.264 and HEVC product, which is called the Rack 300. They are using the same encoding platform as the PRO and AIR series, using the SST protocol as well, and they are providing a low latency end-to-end solution down to 500 milliseconds, like for the mobile unit. And you will find again the same kind of features: live, record, forward, full duplex intercom, the video return feature we have been talking about, the automatic live transmission, and the mission-centric workflow. So that's very similar because it's a different design, but with the same kind of hardware and functionalities. So you will find the SDI input and output as well. To remind you, because I didn't mention it earlier, the SDI out is a loopback just for monitoring. So it will loop back your SDI in or HDMI in for monitoring. And you will have the HDMI output for the video return, mini XLR for the intercom and for the analog audio inputs as well, and online connections. What's different here is that you will have two power supply. That's key for a rack mount encoder. You will have two Ethernet ports as well, so you can bond two online connections together. And you will have USB ports as well. And that's the main difference if you are comparing with the mobile units. In the Rack series here, you don't have built-in modems or antennas because it's designed to be inside the truck, inside the venue, inside the studio. So instead of having built-in modems, it's relying on another AVIWEST product called the Quad Cell Link. The Quad Cell Link is a small device which is magnetic, which can be mounted on the roof of a truck, or it can be permanently installed on a truck or outside a building. It can be outside on tripod as well, for example. And in this Quad Cell Link, you will have 4 cellular modems and 4 antennas built in. Same thing, those are patented high gain antennas we have been designing. Same modems as on the PRO3 units, covering all frequency bands. And you can connect 2 Quad Cell Link on the Rack series to get 8 cellular modems. So that's the design of the racks.
Here's a dumb question about the quad, Florian. I assume the Quad Cell Link will have a 5G version coming out soon as well, correct?
Yeah, of course, that's in the roadmap as well, and that's planned as well. Yeah.
Okay.
So, same workflow. The Rack series is using landline internet, IP-based satellite, and cellular through the Quad Cell Link antennas, using the same SST protocol to the same stream up. So that's very similar to what we have been showing you just before. To have a closer look to the interfaces, those who are already familiar with the PRO3 series, they will recognize that it's quite similar in terms of connectivity and interfaces. So on the front panel, you have a touchscreen interface, an SD card slot for record, and the mini XLR connector for the full duplex IFB, and a USB port so you can plug the quad cell link especially, or a USB hard drive if you want to forward some files. At the back, you got the same SDI in and out, HDMI in and out, 2 LAN connections, analog audio inputs as well, and 2 redundant power supply, and the same switch you mentioned, Jim, for an auto start mode as well.
I have to say, usually in a single channel encoder like this, I don't know of any other vendor that has a dual supply capability. Usually that's an Achilles heel that, oh, it's not going to be as reliable. I can't have two power supplies hooked to it. Usually you have to buy a whole frame, 2 or 3 rack unit frame to get redundant power. So I think that's a big deal, having dual supply. The field units, you can have a battery and the AC power to get redundant power. So I think that's a big deal in this design here to me.
Right, and that's also a compact solution. I've been mentioning it's a half 1 RU rack, as you can see here. So you can use it as a standalone one, or you can put 2 side by side in a 1 RU enclosure we're providing. So that's what you can see, or a single unit in a 1 RU rack, as you want. So it's a high density solution. You will have 2 HD encoders in a 1 RU rack mount space. And we are not showing it here because it's another product which is not new as those ones, but we have a multi-HD rack mount product as well, which is called the HE4000 half 1 RU rack 4 HD encoders. And that was used, for example, by Turner for the Ryder Cup as well.
Well, you should mention also it's 4 HDs or 1 4K.
Oh, 4K.
Yeah.
So that's the end of the presentation about our encoders today. As you noticed, if you have been following our previous webinars, this one was about our hardware-based video encoders, so PRO, AIR, Rack series. If you missed our webinar about our software-based encoders, the Mojo Pro solution for mobile journalism, which is designed for smartphones and tablets, you are welcome to watch it online. It was 2 weeks ago, if I remember well.
Yes, yes.
You find that on our website. I just would like to introduce you to 2 of my colleagues. If you have any questions about our product, about the AVIWEST technology, if you have a project with this technology, if you have questions, if you want to fine-tune something for your workflow, if you want to deploy this in 50 different stadiums with remote production in the cloud, you are definitely welcome to get in touch with Jim or myself, and we will be able to fine-tune and give you the best advices to match your production workflow. But you are also welcome to get in touch with Ronan, our CTO here at the headquarters, or Samuel, our product manager, who I thank for designing those slides.
Yes. Samuel, all the nice graphics. Well, aside from the product design, but the nice graphics are from Samuel as well. We have to thank him for that.
So you're welcome. You can drop them an email as well.
We also have, actually, this is the 3rd in a series of 4. We have one more, Florian, the one about live video contribution and content sharing. Is that more about the Stream Hub? Maybe tell us a little bit about that. And we're skipping next week because next week's kind of a holiday week. So it's Wednesday, June 3rd at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. Do you know?
2 weeks time, same day, same time.
Yes.
All right. Today we have been focusing on the encoders and the field units. And for this next webinar, we will focus on the receiving side. So it will be the contribution reception and also the distribution part and content sharing. And that's also a part of the workflow which is becoming a lot popular, and we're having a lot of requests too. Initially, broadcasters have been moving to bonded cellular and public networks for the contribution part, but we have more and more of our customers that are turning down their satellite service or their dedicated fiber distribution network to move to the public internet, save on cost, be more flexible, and having something easy to deploy in terms of networks as well. So that will be the topic in 2 weeks, and we will show both the product, so the Streamer and Manager you quickly saw today. We will have a big focus on all the advanced features they can offer.
Yes.
And we'll also show some use cases and workflows from our existing customers to give you some ideas about how you could use that, how it can solve your existing issues, and how you can move towards the public internet for distribution as well. So you're welcome to register for this webinar as well, and we will be welcoming you and pleased to see you again in 2 weeks. Just moving to the very last slide. I've been very pleased to have you online today. That's our general contact information for both VidOvation and AVIWEST. You are definitely welcome to get in touch with us for any question or request. I was pleased to have all of you today and hope to see you in 2 weeks.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone. Let me leave you with one last thing. So be sure to tune in 2 weeks. Next week on the 28th, colleagues of ours from the PGA will be speaking on the Sports Video Group panel. They'll be talking about this past Sunday's at-home production using AVIWEST and VidOvation. I will also be on a panel talking more about the technology as well. If you visit sportsvideo.org, Sports Video Group, but their website is sportsvideo.org. Be sure to register for that and look for other VidOvation webinars on our website. Thank you so much, Florian. Everyone out there, please stay. I hope you stay safe and healthy, and we hope to see you virtually soon, but we also hope to see you in person at some point in the future when it's safe. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Thank you again, Florian.
Thank you, Jim. Bye.